Hey, what's up guys? It's Rick with The Digital Divide, and today we're going to be talking about the Ninja Turtles. I'm going to be doing a deep dive retrospective on the history of the Turtles. I've been wanting to make this video for a long time, but there's just so much to cover here. The Turtles have had such an impact on pop culture, ranging from movies to comic books to video games to TV shows to toys. I mean, they've had a massive impact. Now, the Ninja Turtles were created by Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird in 1984, which was just 1 year after I was born. Fun fact, but these guys created this to be a parody of popular comic books at the time. It was never meant to be taken seriously, but Kevin Eastman said in an interview that he'd been drawing comics in school and was trying to sell his work to a newspaper. They didn't take it, but they said, hey, you should meet this guy, Peter Laird. He draws the same kind of silly stuff. And even though Laird was 8 years older than him, they had an immediate connection and came up with this idea. And it was basically, what if Bruce Lee was an animal? What's the silliest animal he would be? It's an obvious joke. The fast-moving martial artist would be a slow-moving turtle. So he did a sketch that became Michelangelo, a turtle with a mask and nunchucks strapped to his arm. And Michelangelo was the first Ninja Turtle. Now, spoiler alert for The Last Ronin. If you haven't read it, you can skip forward about a minute or two. But this takes place in the future when all of the Ninja Turtles are dead, except for one, and that remaining turtle carries all of the weapons of his fallen brothers, and it's such an amazing series. And that one surviving Ninja Turtle is Michelangelo, so he was the first Ninja Turtle to be created, and fittingly, the last one to survive out of the original four in this series. Now, he said in an interview that they premiered the first issue at a small comic convention in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, in May of 1984, and it sold 3,000 copies, which was a lot for an underground comic. And when they put out issue 2 the following January, they sold 15,000 comics. So he figured that that would make each of them about $2,000 pre-tax so that they would be able to pay their rent, eat pizza, and draw comics for a living. It was a dream come true. And here are some of the original sketches that were ever made, showcasing some of their character designs, which is just so cool to see. I mean, this was back when I was a little kid. I was literally an infant when this was created. Now, there were a total of 3 printings made. The first 2 have a dark, deeper, richer texture to them, whereas the third printing is a bit more faded out. It has kind of a pinkish hue to it, so that's one of the ways that you can tell them apart. But there are some other differences. The first printing has a single speck of red blood in the T in the title. There is no tiny black spot above the corner of the building positioned directly above Raphael, and then there's fine cross-hatching in the shadow of Shredder's hand in the bottom left corner. Now, for the second printing, it's basically the same as the first, except there is a tiny black spot above the corner of the building positioned directly above Raphael, which is not in the first printing. Now, a third printing is a little bit easier to spot. The biggest giveaway between the second and third is that on the third printing, there are multiple blood spots in the middle T of Turtles in the title. In addition to that, again, it has like a pinkish hue. It kind of looks like it's faded, like it's been sitting in the sun for a bit longer. That's just the way it was printed, but that's an easy way to spot a third print. Now, I've wanted a first print of this book for years, but it is so expensive. If we hop on eBay, this one is the most recent that I could find. It's a 9.4. It sold for over $22,000. Here's another one graded at a 6.5 that sold for over $7,000. This one is signed by Frank Miller. I have no idea why. As far as I know, he has no involvement with this comic book, and this guy was asking $20,000. So it's a very expensive book in mid to high grade. Now, I've wanted this book for years, but I can't afford $20,000 for a book. That is an insane amount of money. But I could potentially afford a 2.5 to 3.5 range copy of the first print of this book, and I am actively looking for that. So if you're seeing this video and you have a low-grade copy that you want to get rid of, reach out to me. It will go to a good home, I promise. Going back to The Last Ronin, I am thankful to have a copy here. It's graded CGC 9.6. I did have a 9.8 copy signed by Kevin Eastman, but it was a second print. I traded that for the first one. Now, there is a sequel called The Last Ronin 2, Re-Evolution, which features the new cast of the Turtles. Now, if we move over to video games, the first Ninja Turtles game released for the 8-bit Nintendo in 1989. I still have a copy of that game right here. If I'm being honest, it's not the best game in the world. Here's a little bit of that. Now, this game was very basic in nature. It was incredibly difficult, and just not a lot of fun, if I'm being honest. I keep it, though, for nostalgic purposes. The game that really got me into the Turtles when it comes to the video game space is this one. Now, this was originally launched as an arcade machine for the Turtles. It was 4-player co-op, and it was so much fun. The animation is fluid, beautiful looking. I remember me, my dad, my brother, and my sister used to go to the arcade either before or after our normal weekend movie on Saturdays, and we played this along with the 4-player X-Men cabinet, and I had so much fun with this. Now, Arcade 1UP makes a replica of the original cabinet here, except it's much better sized to fit in like an apartment or a house. It's currently $700, but I have seen this go on sale for as low as $300. And the second it goes on sale for that price again, I'm going to buy it. Moving on to the movies, the first Ninja Turtles movie came out in 1990 and was pretty good.
We've been looking for you, Miss O'Neill.
There is a new enemy, freaks of nature. Together, we will punish these creatures.
What the heck was that?
Looked like sort of a big turtle in a trench coat.
There have been countless movies released in this franchise afterwards. Most of them are good, I would say. Now, moving on to toys, this is where the Ninja Turtles really blew up in popularity. In 1987, Eastman and Laird licensed the characters to Playmate Toys, which developed a line of Ninja Turtle action figures. Those action figures sold over $1.1 billion worth of toys between 1988 and 1992, making them the third best-selling toy figures ever at the time of release. Now, in 2014, Playmates re-released versions of those original figures, and there were two different playsets. One was the Hero playset, which you see here on eBay. It came with 6 figures, and then the other one was the Villain playset, also came with 6 figures. I bought both of these, and I still own them, and I made a video on this actually back in the day, and I'm glad I did because they've more than doubled in value since I bought them. And now each individual figure can go between $30 to $50. Now, I also grew up watching the cartoons. The cartoon was wildly popular. It came out in December of 1987. And I was obsessed with this show, and a lot of kids were, hence the popularity of the toys. There were a total of 10 seasons released for this show, and in my opinion, this is still the best animated version of this show ever released. So, where do the Ninja Turtles stand today in 2024? Well, Kevin Eastman unfortunately sold his share of the Ninja Turtles franchise to Laird in the year 2000. And in 2009, Laird decided to sell his share, which was 100% at that time, to Viacom, which is now Paramount Global. So neither one of the original creators actually owns the property anymore, which is unfortunate. But the franchise continues with new comic book series, television series, films, and video games. In fact, The Last Ronin is being turned into both a movie and a video game, which I am super excited about. Now, before I end this video, I just want to leave you with a little bit of discussion from the creators themselves. Check it out.
I like to, bug Pete as much as I could, especially when he's watching his favorite TV shows.
One night, we're sitting around watching bad TV, and that's when it happened. Kevin drew a turtle standing on its hind legs with nunchaku strapped to its forearms and with a bandana-style mask. And he showed it to me. He says, "Hey, this is a Ninja Turtle." And I was like, "Yeah, great." And so I had to do my own version, and I changed just a couple of things.
And of course, I had to top him, so I did a sketch of 4 in pencil, and each one had different weapons and this dramatic pose, and had to put the comic title above, Ninja Turtle.
He handed that to me and I inked that. Sometime around that point, I suggested, well, why not add Teenage Mutant to the name? You know, it's kind of rhythm to it.
Dude, we have to come up with a story that tells how these characters became the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. We were both huge fans of the underground publishing movement. You go back to Zap Comics, Robert Crumb, Kitchen Sink, Rip-Off Press, Fabulous Furry Freak Brothers. A lot of that stuff we had both seen and enjoyed in head shops and that kind of stuff you could find.
We realized pretty early on in our friendship that we each had strengths to complement the other.
I brought sort of the layout and the dynamic sort of Jack Kirby-isms that sort of paced out the story this way. He brought a lot of great subtle nuances to the story, certainly in the script, I think, more than anything else. And his artwork style was much more refined, much more detailed.
I could talk about the Turtles all day, guys, but I gotta keep this video at a reasonable length. As always, thank you for watching. That's gonna do it for me today. Let me know in the comments below if you grew up watching the Turtles as well.